Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I am Justin Nimergood, your host of the Real Estate Rockstars podcast. I'm so thrilled for the guests that we have joining us today. Today's guest is passionate about helping real estate professionals gain the construction knowledge most agents were never taught, but desperately need to stand out and serve clients better. Scott Grozelle is an author, new home sales expert, and educator with more than 2 decades of experience working alongside builders, realtors, and home buyers. Based in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, Scott focuses on bridging the gap between real estate sales and true product knowledge, teaching agents how homes are actually built so they can communicate value more effectively, build buyer confidence, and position themselves as trusted advisors instead of just transaction coordinators. Scott is the author of Construction Intelligence for Realtors, as well as a new home sales without the nonsense and secrets home builders don't want you to know. His work helps agents better understand construction systems, identify potential red flags earlier, navigate builder relationships, and create smoother transactions in both new construction and resale markets. Known for his practical, no fluff teaching style, Scott brings real world insights that help agents improve credibility, reduce surprises during transactions, and ultimately win more business through trust and expertise. Scott, welcome to the show, sir.
Well, thank you for having me on your show, Justin.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So I love how we said in there, no fluff teaching style. What's that all about?
Well, so in the past, I how would I say this without being kind of rude, I guess. I mean, I took a lot of sales courses and that through over the years, and I just found a lot of it just wasn't really getting anybody where they needed to be. So, and when I say that, it just seemed like it was a lot of nonsense, I guess. And it just wasn't working for anyone, and myself included. So what I did is I used to go to a lot of different uh, new show homes and that with different builders and just see what they were doing and what the good, the big performers, how they were doing out there. And the one thing I really noticed was when they were talking with confidence in the product that they were selling, and they knew it. And it's just like, wow, okay. I mean, that's what's working. And for me,
Mhm.
that became very easy because my background was architecture. And
Ah,
that's what I started. I just loved construction and I loved building. Even when I was a kid, I built forts. So for me,
um,
it was fun. So, I ended up going to school for architecture, moving to the US, doing architecture there for 10 years. And I learned a lot of very valuable skill in that time there. And then I moved back to Canada with my wife, and because I what I wanted to do was stay in the US, but under the work visa I was on, I had to stay and do architecture. And I wanted to get more into the sales end, and that if I did that, it wouldn't really meet the criteria of what I met for being on that TN visa at the time. So I ended up going back to Canada and working with home builders, and one in particular at the time, and it just was such a natural fit. And then the sales, finding good salespeople was really difficult at the time.
mhm.
And so I took that on myself, and I had taken real estate training in the U.S. while I was in doing architecture, so that was kind of a side passion myself. And once again, I couldn't practice real estate sales in the U.S. because it would violate my visa at the time. So I, when I got back to Canada, Alberta at the time, and it was working with these home builders, like I said, going to the different show homes and just seeing how these things were working, and it became a good fit for me. And then, that's how I got started in that direction. And then I left that home builder company, started up my own with two other guys, and one was a real estate agent at the time, well, he still is, and we he had a lot of uh, associates with him. So they
Mhm.
all wanted to be a part of the new home sales side of things, but none of them had the background to really get them to selling. So
Mm-hmm.
what I did is I started taking all these associates through our active projects, showing them what's going on, showing them behind the wall. So they got elevated so fast in their sales. I mean, not just in new home sales, but just in sales in general in real estate. So it was pretty exciting to see them elevate themselves and the confidence, and they became the savvy people to go to, and that was huge. Sales just, well, especially for the new home sales. Also, it was, I now had some salespeople that I trusted in those homes
Mm-hmm.
because it's a big deal. There's so many moving parts to it that you just can't put somebody in there and expect them to perform properly, right? So that's where
Yeah.
it went. And
New training or training is so important, and kudos to you for sort of taking the bull by the horns and saying, you know what, if there's not a fit, a lot of people would have either given up or would have outsourced it, outtasked it, but you said, you know what, I'm going to take all this in house. I'm going to take it upon, make it incumbent upon myself to figure this out. And I think we could certainly use a lot more of that, especially here in the U.S. So maybe maybe the Canadians have the right mindset and the U.S. doesn't. Who knows?
I don't think so, really. I mean, some of the best that I've seen was in the US, to be honest. I learned a lot when I was there, and I just didn't see that in Canada, to be honest. So, and I'm not saying that there wasn't good salespeople in that. It just wasn't available to us at the time. So, like you said, you adapt, and that's the strength of anyone to success, right? Is adapt and find your, especially in these times now with AI and everything. This is the edge that I'm finding right now with a few that I'm working with, is they were having problems, and now they're, it gets them up running fast in a different direction. And that's, when you become that go-to person and you have those skill sets, it sets you apart, and it does for sure.
Absolutely. Now let's switch gears for a second. You've been the author of a couple of different pieces. Tell us about your books here. It sounds like a lot of it focused on construction, which, to be honest, and I've had tons of guests on over the years. You're one of the few I can say that kind of focuses on that aspect. It's unfortunate that more don't. But what was it that you saw specifically about that space and needing to educate the masses, more properly about that?
Well, I think, like, home builders work in a different mindset. It's just they're trying to get through it, and realtors or salespeople in the industry, they look at it differently. They're trying to build relationships, and relationships are built on trust,
Mm-hmm.
and that's huge. And a good way of building trust is they feel that you are the go-to. You've got their back. You understand the process, and when they feel that, if they're doing a walkthrough, okay, you got different stages of walkthroughs. And if you're guiding your client through that process, they feel like they've got an advocate with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge. And okay, you're doing a pre-drywall inspection. If you got a set of eyes instead of the client themselves just going through and blindly not really knowing what they're looking at, it becomes, wow, okay, this person's really knows what they're doing. And all of a sudden they're recommending to their friends, this person is completely different. They're a realtor, but this person here, wow, they get it. So I think that goes really a lot in a lot of different directions, because you get home inspectors will refer them because they like seeing somebody that knows what they're talking about. You've got, I guess, even lawyers, you've got mortgage brokers, all these people, they all interconnect. And if you're speaking the language, and the builders themselves, they want to have somebody available to them that can sit in some of their product that's on the market and hosting it. They can do, one good thing with realtors are their advertising, like their marketing is huge. Like they're good at it. They're usually ahead of pretty much everyone. And so they bring a huge value to the table right from the beginning of, and they do care about their clients, and that's great. And,
Absolutely.
you know, And I always say, just try to find something that aligns with you. And if it's with a home builder that has the same values, even better. I mean, if they're kind of shady and you're shady, well, maybe you work well together, right? Well, I don't know, right? I mean, you find your fit, and I always said that. It's hard to sell something you don't believe in, and if it's a shoddy construction, it's really hard to be confident with helping your clients, right? You feel like you're deceiving them, and that's not good for anyone. It doesn't matter what you're selling; you got to believe in the product. And so, like you said in my books, construction knowledge is, what home builders don't want you to know. That was my first book, and that one was that one took a lot of time to put together over the years because I put a lot of notes together, and I always thought I would do something like a book or whatever, podcast like this also. But it just took a lot of information, a lot of stories that I learned from myself, situations that I had to deal with. And when you have that in front of you and that knowledge, it just elevates anybody, whether you're the client going through the process or whether you're a realtor guiding the client through the process. Because there's a lot of money in for a realtor or new home salesperson to make in spec inventory and that. I mean, you've got, hopefully you align yourself with a builder that does some decent volume. They can keep it in front of you. You're chipping away. If you're in a new development, you can do some ghost plans. Here's the lot. Here's the plan that I'm thinking. All those kind of things. If you're marketing like that, I've seen it just turn the salesperson completely around from going from a couple sales in a year. Like I was really shocked as how little some of these performers were doing. Like they would do 2, 3, maybe 4 in a year. That's not. I mean, you get
Not enough to live off of, really.
No, it's not, and that's why. And I worked with one lady that she keep coming to me over and over again and wanting to get to the next level because she was just the 2, 3 a year. Super nice person, super great with clients, but she didn't understand construction intelligence at all or the process. And then when I say construction intelligence, I'm talking the process. I'm not talking how to build the house necessarily,
Right.
but all the pieces that get you through the whole, through the build. And she couldn't really get that, and she never really did. And it was too bad because she had everything, her marketing, her presence, the events she'd be at, but she could never grasp this. And then I'd have a few others that would quickly, and all of a sudden, wow, it's like they just increased their market share in their space hugely. So, I mean, it's nice to see that. I mean, you can't help everyone, but you try to help who you can.
Yeah. That's well said. And, or said differently, you can't help everyone. You can only help those who want to help themselves, I guess, is another way of looking at it. Let me ask you this: as someone who's an expert in construction, I guess we'll definitely say you're an expert of sorts in construction. Would you say that construction has gotten better or worse in recent years?
Oh, I think it definitely has gotten better. I just seen a recent video on YouTube that, and I think it was AI generated. I'm not positive. It's kind of difficult to tell nowadays.
Yeah, it is.
But they were saying homes built in the 90s were better than now. And there's no way. I mean, back in the 90s, you had a lot of issues. I mean, windows failed all the time. You get moisture trapped between the panes always because you'd have a failed unit. And and just all the building sciences have evolved, and they started in the 90s, really, is when they started making quantum leaps. And that's when I was in school, and I was learning all about details and, blower door tests and stuff like that, where you're actually seeing how airtight the home is. So, and a home is only as good as the installation of every component. I mean, there's layers and layers to building a house, but they all have to be done at the right time with the right detailing to making it way better. So I'm not saying homes weren't built great in the 90s or earlier, but the advances are huge, which happened in the last couple decades. And I've seen, the homes are so airtight that you got to get fresh air brought in with systems so that you're not getting sick home syndrome. And that was another common thing. People get their homes really airtight, and all of a sudden they're getting sick. Everyone's getting sick. It's kind of like, what's going on here, right? But if you're breathing in the same stale air, that's not good. And you need air to flow. Whether it's in your attic space, you can't have trapped air up there either. Everything has to move. Everything has to breathe, and efficiently, right? I mean, you still have to get. If you're in a cold climate, you want that fresh air coming in through drafty, weak points in the construction. No, you want it to be controlled air coming in, efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole building science that I've seen in the last couple decades that has just gotten better.
That's good to hear. I hear varied responses to that question, right? Some people say better, some people say worse. I think some of the systems stuff like HVAC units, I've heard all the stories of like HVAC unit that lasts 50 years, kind of thing from back in the day versus your ones today that seem to, give crap out within 15 to 20 years at most, if you're lucky. But that's really interesting here. I'm curious as well. You're in Mexico, right? What's the market like there?
It's well, we just had recently some cartel activities, so that certainly didn't help. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of interesting. It was nothing. It was kind of blown out of proportion for sure. But the activity here is it's always kind of consistent, not really peaks and valleys like you see in most areas. So I don't. Like right now, we've got a project with a couple units. We've sold half of them. It's a sixplex, so we sold 3 and selling 3. But they're, it's not like there's a big rush. No urgency is not really there. But you do see a difference now. There's more nationals buying than you would previously. So I mean, the middle class here is really growing a lot. And they have money to spend, and they will come from, like, I'm in Puerto Vallarta. So you will see people from Mexico City, Guadalajara with money coming and buying. This is kind of like their vacation home. So it's pretty interesting to see how this is all coming around.
Yeah, I would imagine being there in the thick of it's pretty darn interesting. I know I've enjoyed Puerto Vallarta was the first city I actually ever visited in Mexico, going on I think it was a spring break trip or something like that. But the Mexican market, and obviously you have some wonderful weather there that is conducive to second homes, like you said, for certain people. Now, Scott, we're going to switch gears to our final segment of the show. Like I told you pre-show, going to ask you a couple zingers here, so get ready. So the first question is this: imagine it's your last day on Earth, and you can only preserve 3 items in your time capsule. What are those items and why?
3 items in my time capsule. Oh boy, that's a zinger, like you said. That's a thinker.
It is. That's
my guitar. I would put my guitar.
I was gonna say, you better say your guitar, because your guitar is the only thing I see in the background of your video right now. So
I would take my guitar, my family, and my pets. I got a dog, a big Labradoodle, and my 2 cats. So that's what I would do.
That's wonderful. The guitar. Yeah, you better say the guitar.
Yeah.
You can jam a little bit, I take it?
Oh, yeah. I used to, in a previous life, used to play on stage with bands and that. So
very cool.
It's not something I actively do, like, perform anymore, but I used to love doing it for sure.
Yeah, it's that's something I've always wanted to learn, but it's like, I know that it's a pretty big time commitment. I've never taken that leap, but who knows? Maybe when I'm retired from production as a realtor, I can reinvest that extra time back into learning to play the guitar.
I'll
with you when I do.
I think it's easier now than it used to be because I had to do everything by ear. Now you've got like so much available in tablature and YouTube videos. I would have loved to have had that at my fingertips, but not back in the day.
Not back in the day, yeah. I bet you it was difficult back then. All right, here's the second question for you. This one's much easier, but I am curious your perspective. So, what's your definition of a real estate rock star?
Somebody that listens to their clients, has the knowledge that's going to benefit them through the process, whether it's new home sales, whether it's existing. They can identify some issues before they actually get to a contract. That's a huge, I mean, that's rock star performance right there. And somebody that just really believes in what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's any kind of rock star in whatever they do. And, if you're a guitar player, I mean, you're
Mm-hmm.
passionate about what you're doing, and that comes through. But a real estate rock star has those in place and loves what they do, and they want to help their client. They believe in trust, integrity, and transparency. I think that's what sets the good ones apart. And they've got that, and they've got the knowledge. And because I've seen it, I've seen ones that have everything else in place, but they're missing something. What is that missing? What does set someone apart from being the rock star?
Mm-hmm.
That one hit from, getting them onto the big league. And sometimes it's just a little tweak in how they're coming across. Because once you figure it out, I mean, it just escalates.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden you're too busy. And what am I going to do? And I mean, that's a good problem to have.
Oh, absolutely. We all want that problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be the busy rock star for sure, right? So I mean, I think that's what I would say.
Yeah, I tend to agree, Scott. That's very well said. Now, we've really enjoyed having you on today, Scott. Why don't you let our listeners or subscribers out there that get this both live and following the show, where can they find and connect with you? What's the best way to reach out and connect with Scott Grozelle?
So, yeah, they can reach me on my website at scottgrozelle.com. And my books are all available on Amazon. And I do have an audio book for the Realtor Intelligence book. It's the only one that I did in the audio version because realtors are always in their car and they don't really want to have the time necessarily to sit and read. So I just thought as you're going to your next meeting, you're learning, and this is a good way to do it. So, and I've got good feedback on all the books, and there's one for, like I said, the no nonsense one's more geared to the person that's sitting in their show home, want to learn the different techniques and what I've seen work in the past. And then the what do you call it? The secrets home builders don't want you to know. That's everything. I mean, that's somebody they want to buy. They want to go through the build process, but they're a little bit unsure and they want to be prepared.
Yeah.
Because I mean, and it's not attacking the home building industry at all. It's just saying this is how you got to deal with it, so that there's communication is probably the biggest failure point I've seen in a bad build process. And when I get calls, and I do get calls from different people from the US and Canada, they're like, hey, I'm in this situation. I've seen one of your YouTube videos and you've discussed this. How do I deal with this at that point? And usually it's a pretty easy. Builders are not shady, sketchy, not all. I mean, there's some I've witnessed.
Well, there's some for everything in life, right?
Yeah, that's right. But in the time will either expose you or promote you. And the ones that are, shady and that, with all the online presence and that's out there, it's really tough to get away with that. And that's a good thing, because it's a big purchase and it's something that needs to be taken, carefully and respectfully.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. And so, folks, there you have it, Mr. Scott Grozelle, scottgrozelle.com. You can find his books out on, like you said, out on Amazon. And he also has a Audible version of his primary book as well. So for you realtors and agents out there, you can listen to it in your mobile office, as we like to call it. In real estate, you listen to it in your mobile office. Folks, another great episode, another great guest here on the Real Estate Rockstars podcast. I am Justin Nimergood, your host. We're signing off for this week. We'll see you again, same time, same place next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.